Hey everybody, Will and Brian here, and today we're going to talk about some common mistakes made when dipping coral. So let's get right into it. Will, mistake number one?
Mistake number one, skipping the dip. In my opinion, is the most essential thing to do when you're getting a new coral, but some people don't do it.
Absolutely, and it is important, and full disclosure, I never used to dip coral at all. I would take it from the store right into the tank. And in some cases it cost me dearly. I know my main setup a long time ago, I got flatworms because of it. So, not only can dipping really solve a lot of problems as far as keeping bacteria, pests, algae, parasites, things like that out of your main display tank, but it can actually help benefit the coral. In some cases even save its life. I know I've saved corals before that were undergoing RTN. Just throw them in a quick dip for a few minutes, bring them back out, and they've actually recovered. So a lot of benefits there.
And that leads right into mistake number two, picking the wrong dip. There's a ton of different types of coral dips on the market nowadays. Some coral dips are very harsh on corals and some are meant to heal corals. So picking the right one is going to be essential in making sure your coral stays alive through that dip. Now there's a few different types we can go over. We can go over the essential oils, there's iodine dips and salt-based dips. Personally, I'm a big fan of salt-based dips like potassium dips. I got this one back here. This Reef primer stuff. It's a really harsh dip. It's going to kill basically every nasty parasite or other things like flatworms, red bugs, spiders. But it is really harsh on your coral. They don't like it. So if your coral's not doing well, this is not a good choice for you.
Yeah, and I think it really depends on the scenario that you've got here. Is this a coral that you've had for a while and it's not doing well and you're trying to treat it? Is it a new coral that you've gotten, maybe shipped in, it's been bouncing around in a bag for overnight? Whatever the case may be, try to plan that out. You wouldn't want to use this on something that was already stressed out. That's something where you'd want to maybe bring in some iodine-based type of dip, right? So really pay attention to that. And for that reason, I also, along with dipping, I would recommend a quarantine tank. So you can give it time to rest and then maybe give it that harsh dip before you add it to your display tank. All right, and that brings us to mistake number three, not following instructions. This is a pretty simple one, but it's easily overlooked and worth mentioning because all of these dips are going to differ just a little bit. I know we don't like to read. Take a few minutes, check out the back of that bottle, make sure you're paying attention to compatibility with the creature you're putting in there, concentration, dip time, all that.
Right, some of these aren't compatible with things like anemones or some inverts, they won't be invert safe. So just be sure to read the instructions before you dip. Mistake number four, not rinsing off your coral when you're done dipping them. There's a ton of nasty things in these that are going to kill things. That's the whole point. So you don't want to add it to your tank.
Yeah, like you mentioned earlier in one of the other instances was, some of these will kill crustaceans, all kinds of stuff. So just make sure you give your coral a good rinse, fresh salt water, tank water, whatever it is, just make sure you get all that coral dip off of there before you add it to your display. Okay, mistake number five, reusing dip. As a former reefer on a budget, I can sympathize with everybody out there that wants to pinch pennies, save this. Some of this stuff isn't cheap. So you want to save it, you want to keep it. You're like, just put one coral in there. It's fine. It's going to work again. Not always a great idea.
Right, this stuff is not gonna last. Once you mix it with the water, it doesn't have a shelf life of a very long time. You're going to wanna use it once and get rid of it. Mistake number six, not removing the frag plugs from your new frags. From what I've seen, the frag plug holds almost all of the pests on them. Typically, these pests can't survive living on the skeleton's flesh for so long, and usually they're gonna be found on some kind of rock.
Right, absolutely. And it could get even worse when you start looking at things like rock rubble, reef rubble, which we've got some back here, but there's a lot of space in those, a lot of crevices for stuff to hide in. So anytime you can remove some of that, any of that base material that's unnecessary for the coral, always a great idea to do so. Mistake number seven, ignoring signs of stress. Dipping a coral that has excessive stress going on can actually cause more harm than good, right? So you really want to pay attention to that coral. If it's got receding tissue, excessive slime, broken tissue, pieces missing, things like that. Has it been jostled around too much? Whatever the case may be, really pay attention to that coral. And if it has excessive stress or if it looks like it's not doing so well, best not to put it in something like a really harsh dip right off the bat.
Definitely. If it's looking stressed, you're gonna wanna give it time to heal. You can either dip it in something that will heal it, something like an iodine dip, or you can give it space and time to heal in some kind of quarantine system.
Okay, so those are our top 7 mistakes when dipping coral. Thanks for watching, everybody.
And see you guys next time.